Buddy. It is Marcia and Michelle, and we are here for another session of Ghostly Gab and Random Thoughts. This evening, we are going to talk about cryptids and strange creatures. Mothman, Jinn, Chupacabra, Momo. Don't know how many of you know about Momo. I want to say thanks to all of you who are joining us this evening. We know there is so much you can do on a Friday night besides hang out with us. We're glad that you're here. We appreciate you hanging out with us. When you come into the stream, if you don't mind just saying hello to us so that we know who's hanging out with us. I see Linda and Dawn and Bev. Hello, ladies. So we're going to be talking about monsters tonight. Before we get started, I do want to say thanks to our military and our men and women in blue, like I always do. We truly, truly appreciate you putting yourselves on the line every single day so that we can sleep well at night. So just know that you're always in our thoughts, you're always in our prayers. We know what a sacrifice it is to you and your family. And thank you just doesn't seem to be enough, but that's all we've got. So thank you. Again, our topic this evening is cryptids and strange creatures.
Yes.
So,
yes, it is.
What am I forgetting in my opening? It seems like I'm forgetting something. I'm a little off because we were ready to go, and then all of a sudden our stream just like shut down. It's like, holy moly, holy moly. So Michelle is going to drop or has dropped in the chat there our link to buy me a coffee if you want to help keep us on the road, because you know the gas prices are going up, ladies. Gas prices and gentlemen.
I was going to say, hello.
Yeah, if you're joining us on the replay, we appreciate it. In a few minutes, she'll also drop in there the link to our spread shop. That's where you can get shirts and jackets and whatever. And this weekend, you get a 50% discount on all the t-shirts. So order a ton of them. And I know some of you have trouble actually accessing it because the website is like really long. And if I knew what I was doing, I could probably cut the website down, get a short link, but I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to leave it there. Yes, Dawn, the spooky figurine is there. It was there last month too.
It was. It really was.
It makes quite the ambiance, don't you think?
Especially as it gets darker outside.
So, but again, our topic tonight is cryptids and strange creatures.
Yes.
And I don't know what Michelle's going to talk about. She doesn't know what I'm going to talk about. So
we'll all be surprised together.
We'll see how this goes. Michelle,
this is the random.
You want to kick it off with some random thought?
Absolutely. And so how many of you, by thumbs up, smiley faces, whatever you want to do, have heard of the Chupacabra?
Becky and I actually saw it.
Which one? Because there's actually two versions of it.
Well, we saw it. Where were we, Becky? We were in, I think it was Arizona. I think it was Arizona because it was where she had to do the Cowgate thing. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I had her out there doing the Cowgates. And we were we had gone like 12 miles off on gravel roads back up in the mountains, and we saw it. And we're sure that's what it is. Now, it could have been a dog. It could have been a dog because it was pretty distant. But we're saying it was a Chupacabra.
Okay. So
that's our story.
Okay. Well, the Chupacabra actually was first seen and originated in Latin America, Puerto Rico. And do you all know what Chupacabra stands for? I'm going to let you know. It actually is derived from...
I was going to take a guess, but okay.
Go ahead. Take a guess.
Black dog.
Nope. Anybody of our listeners out there, do you all know? It actually is derived from the Spanish words of chupar or chupar, means to suck, and cabra, which is goat, which translates into goat sucker.
Oh, I knew that too. I knew
I was
that.
like, I knew you knew it.
I
And I
knew
know
it.
most of
I
you out
knew it.
there know that too. So, anyways, what it started off with, it started off down in, like I said, Puerto Rico, and they were actually first reported in 1995. So it's a fairly new and more recent um, cryptid. And so they were blamed for attacks on goats, sheep, other domestic animals, and supposedly leaving the uneaten carcasses with all the blood sucked out of them. Um, the earlier reports actually described the creature standing upright, resembling a large kangaroo, a reptilian kangaroo at that, with huge red eyes. So
Okay, that
the
I had never heard that before because I always thought it was like a dog-like creature.
well, those are the ones. So the ones down in Puerto Rico have been given this description of the reptilian kangaroo and huge red eyes. Interestingly enough, is they've never found any specimens of this down in Puerto Rico, but the eyewitnesses um, gave this description and happened to be very similar to the creature in the movie Species, which also came out in 95. It features a creature that is similar in appearance as the reptilian kangaroo. So that's kind of what it was there in the United States, and southern United States especially. Chupacabras were on four legs and more like what you described. And a lot of people actually think they may be either hybrid dog and coyote breeds with mange. They did actually find one, and or what they believe to be one on a ranch. And she had the information, she had lab work and everything done, but it's gone missing.
That's always the
So
way, isn't it?
it
Always the
is. It
way.
really is. And so it really hasn't gone much after that. So I'm going to hand it off to you real quick. Oh, never
Okay.
mind. There we go. Um, so the long and the short of it is Puerto Rico, Latin America, and southwestern United States. It's a modern mythic creature blamed for unusual deaths of cattle and livestock. That's the long and the short of it. Yes, Dawn, that is correct. She had it stuffed as well. I know she kept it in her freezer for a while, and supposedly a sheriff's deputy actually caught it on his dash camera. Um, but again, they never saw it clearly and couldn't say if it was the chupacabra or if it was a mangy dog. Um, so let me see if there's anything else on that one. So, real quick, fact or fiction. One myth for chupacabras is that they are escaped pets of alien visitors. True or false?
That's so crazy. I'm going to say that's true.
Fact. After all, they look like aliens with their large glowing eyes, and other theories are that they're escaped genetic experiments or naturally occurring giant vampire bats. So there's another description for you.
Well, and vampire vampire bats, that's not on our list. But down in South America, those
Some
bats get
big ones.
huge. I mean, we run now at the ones that are 3 or 4 inches long. Imagine one that's like 18 inches, the body's 18 inches.
Right?
Yeah,
And
my
Bev,
leg.
I think she was some sort of a vet, but I don't have those notes in front of me. But I believe you are correct that she was some sort of vet tech or some sort. So, and an 18-inch bat, you betcha.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I would never recover from that. I would never recover from that physically because I would be running again, and I just
we
finished
know
my
she's not allowed
rehab.
to run.
Yeah, because I just finished my rehab on that.
So that is what I have to share on chupacabras. And again, I know most of you were familiar with chupacabras, but just wanted to share that one as a nice one to kick off with.
Okay, well, the first one I want to talk about tonight is something near and dear to my heart, which is the Mothman. The Mothman. I love the whole story about the Mothman, right? And actually, Bev and I took a trip to Point Pleasant, which is the epicenter of the Mothman, to go Mothman hunting. We did not find the Mothman. We did not find the Mothman. And I want to say, just on a side note, that the folks of Point Pleasant, they capitalize on the Mothman because it brings tourists in, but that's not their big thing. When they get you in a conversation, they steer it away from the Mothman and more into their Civil War history and the history of the Silver Bridge collapse. That is like foremost in their mind, right? But yeah, Bev and I went to the TNT area. We were creeping around in the dark. It was great. No Mothman. But the Mothman is a humanoid creature, and it was seen in Point Pleasant from November of 66 until December of 67. And then it was not ever seen again in Point Pleasant. Just for those, 13 months. I almost couldn't do the math. Just for those 13 months was it seen. Now, the first sighting of it, the first sighting of it was on November 15th, 1966. There were two young couples out for a drive in the TNT area. Well, teenagers in the TNT area, we know what was planned there. But their plans went awry because they saw this thing. And the two couples, it was Roger and Linda Scarberry. They ended up getting married. And Steve and Mary Millette, they also, they ended up getting married. But they told the police, they actually went to, after this, they were chased by this creature. They saw it. They took off back towards Point Pleasant, and it chased them to the city limits. And they went straight to the police and reported this. And there are newspaper articles and things of that nature. But they told police that they saw a large white creature whose eyes glowed red. And that's a little bit different than what is portrayed like in the media. He's portrayed as a dark bat-like thing, but he actually was white. And they saw him first standing at the side of the road in the TNT area. Now, Linda, she's been very vocal about it. The other three have not been as vocal through the years, but apparently she got the best look at it. And she described it as a slender, muscular man, but he was about 7 feet tall, but he had white wings. So that's kind of crazy. Now, over the next few days, so they went to the police, they reported it. Of course, it gets picked up in the paper. The sheriff thinks that they're, on something or crazy, although he did come out and say that they were so distressed that he knew something happened. He just didn't know what it was. But there were several other sightings. There were two volunteer firemen that saw it. They described it as a large bird with red eyes. There was a contractor working in the area, and he was looking in the field with a flashlight, and he happened to catch it in the light of his flashlight. And he said that its eyes glowed like bicycle reflectors. So that was like the common theme. It was the big red eyes that glowed. Now,
wasn't this the one in Blue Book that they blamed to be an owl of some sort?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, because Project Blue Book did investigate this. But now the sheriff at the time, he believed and publicly said that he thought it was a large heron that was off its migratory path. And then there was a wildlife biologist by the name of Bob Smith, can you believe it, from West Virginia University. And he publicly said that all the sightings fit the description of a large sandhill crane, which also was not native to the area, but could have come off its migratory path. So they wouldn't necessarily know what that looks like, right? Because they're not used to seeing it. but the biologist said that he thought it was a large sandhill crane. Now, on December 15th, 1967, that's when the Silver Springs, or the Silver Bridge, collapsed. That's the bridge that connects West Virginia to Ohio right there at Point Pleasant. And it collapsed with people on it. Um, there were people that claimed to have seen the Mothman um, sitting on the bridge right before it collapsed. So that's how the rumors got started, that maybe it was bringing the message of this disaster, right? Because it was seen, then it was on the bridge collapsed. Now, and of course, I do want to say 46 people lost their lives that day, and that is a huge deal to the people in Point Pleasant even today, because when Bev and I were down there, yeah, they would talk to us about the Mothman, but they wanted to talk about the Silver Bridge collapse.
Right.
Everybody knew somebody or was related to somebody, and that incident is still very, very fresh in the minds of the people of Point Pleasant. So I want to tell you an interesting fact, though. According to a Georgian newspaper, and I'm talking about the country of Georgia, not the state, there was a Russian ufologist who claimed that a Mothman type creature was seen in Moscow right before the 1999 Russian apartment bombings, when several of their they have like these huge apartment buildings, were bombed and collapsed. There were sightings of the Mothman in Russia. Now, what makes the Mothman a little bit different from other cryptids is that it has a very specific start date and a very specific end date. First sighting was in November of 1966, and the last sighting was December 15th of 67 when the bridge collapsed. It has not been seen in Point Pleasant since. So that makes it a little bit different. Now, I got a couple of pictures I want to show you, because the Mothman resurfaced in Chicago in 2011. So I want to show you this picture because I saw this and I thought, oh, I got to show this picture. All right, let me put this one up. Okay. As you're looking at this picture, it was a man and a woman, and the male used to live in the Chicago area, and he used to go to this. It was a restaurant at the time that had this big Indian, and he wanted to take his wife and show his wife. So they drove by it, and he took a picture of it. And you can see there's something, I have circled it in red. He thought it was a plane, right? So he got home, and let me see here. He took a closer look, and this is what he saw. So then he zoomed, because it looks like a bat to me. Looks like a bat. So he zoomed in, and this is what it looked like as close as he could get it.
Would that be one of those? I don't see any buildings around, but those glider guys, those suits, those glider suits?
Well,
for adrenaline junkies?
It could be. It could be. Because here's the original picture. And then this is a little closer up. It could be. There was a similar video shot in 2017, which I do not have, but I have seen, of something very similar taken in the downtown area. And the thought then was that it was a fella in a glider suit that had jumped off of one of the tall buildings.
Right.
So I don't know. But this picture was taken at the corner of 63rd and Pulaski Road in Chicago. So let me get rid of this so you can see us again. Now in 2017, so they started seeing it in Chicago in 2011. They saw it off and on here or there. They didn't see it a lot. But in 2017, there were 55 reported sightings of a flying humanoid. So 2017, whatever was going on in Chicago, I don't know. But the accounts varied from a large black bat-like being with glowing red eyes to something that looked like a big owl. The Mothman has been sighted at O'Hare Airport. There are confirmed sightings of something there by the control tower and by the pilots. It's been seen in and around Chicago. It's also been seen in rural Illinois and in Wisconsin. So Lou Strickler has been investigating and collecting sightings of the Mothman since the 70s. And he actually has a website called phantomsandmonsters.com, where he actually shares all of his documentation and his witness interviews. And he is an author, and he investigates, various cryptids. So let me see. I want to point out too, or I want to share with you guys, The Mothman Prophecies is probably the best known book written about the Mothman, but I have never read that book. But what I do have, I want to just kind of show you here, if I can get it. Which way do I want to go? All right, let me back it up here. Oh, it's too blurry. It's too blurry. I can't do it. I can't do it.
There you go.
Mothman, The Facts Behind the Legend, right? And it's written by Donnie Sargent and Jeff Walmsley. And what they have done, this is backwards. It's backwards. But what they have done in this book, they have, it's probably one of the most comprehensive books I've ever seen on the Mothman. They've got all the news articles. They've got all the witness reports.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. I mean, they just like put you right in the thick of it. It's not their opinion about anything. They just lay it out, here are the news articles. These are the reports. This is what was on the news. This is the witness statements. So you can kind of make, decide for yourself what you think about the Mothman.
Very cool.
So anyway, that's what I know about the Mothman. And again, Bev and I gave it a good college try. We were not successful in locating the Mothman.
Yeah, and Dawn put in the comments about Keel's Mothman Prophecies book. There's another one with all, it includes the Men in Black, UAPs, Mothman.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be a really good book. I have not read that. But anyway, that's what I know about the Mothman.
Okay. Well, our next cryptid is the Wraith. And some of you may or may not have heard of a Wraith before, but the official term, according to Monstropedia, is the Wraith is a vague term that describes a ghostly creature, a spirit of another world, or more generally, a mysterious being to be feared. And there's a couple of different reasonings behind the Wraith. So the classic description or depiction of the Wraith is that it is identical to a tall humanoid figure, Wraith, W-R-A-I-T-H. As a humanoid figure shrouded in a black cloak where no face can be seen, though a hand protrudes with long, sharp fingers. For those of you that are familiar with J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, think of Dementors. That's pretty much a Wraith. It is a being of power, sometimes controlled by a greater spirit to do the creature's will. They're shadows floating amongst our realm with no purpose except to do their master's bidding. In one case, they say that they feed on humans, their emotions, and without doing this, they wouldn't even exist. In European pagan beliefs, it's seen as a spirit of vengeance, considered rare amongst the spirit realm, because they do consist of pure revenge. So let's say if any of you saw the movie The Wraith, it's a 1986 film with Charlie Sheen. It's actually an okay movie considering it was made in the 80s, but He was a young teenager that was murdered, and his spirit comes back, and his whole thing is to get back at everybody that had a hand in his death. So it's also described as an image that one sees just before dying, sort of like a premonition. And the other is that wraiths are, as you're getting close to death, you may see your wraith, and it's almost as if it's your doppelganger. And I thought that was a new definition. I had not heard of that one before, but I thought that was pretty interesting to boot. So the wraith is considered to be a double of an existing person and an omen of their imminent death. And short and sweet, but that is what I have on the wraith.
That's pretty scary.
Yes. On some of the
That's
well-known
really pretty
TV
scary.
shows, that we've all watched and mentioned before, about being caught on camera. Some of them show that some of them may not even interact with they had a video of one in a cave. And I did read somewhere where they said some of them don't necessarily interact with the humans, but they do live in those dark, either forests or caves or away from humanity. And only if they're disturbed do they actually come after you. So there's some differing viewpoints there.
It's still pretty scary.
Yeah.
It's still pretty scary.
Yep. I was trying to see if there was anything else that they are referred to as, which is interesting because a lot of them overlap. But doppelganger is the most commonly verbiage used for them. So there you have it.
Well, I have one that I bet most of you have never heard of, and that is Momo. How many of you have heard of Momo? None? Okay. Momo is also known as the Missouri Monster, which is how it got its name. M-O for Missouri, M-O for monster, Momo. And it was reported to look like an ape-like creature similar to a Bigfoot. And it was sighted by numerous people in Little Louisiana, Missouri in 1971 and 72. Now, Louisiana, Missouri is a pretty rural town. Not much is happening. But the first actual documented sighting was on July 11th of 1972. There were two young boys, and when I say young, I'm going to say 11, 12, that were playing in the backyard. And their home was actually on the outskirts of Louisiana, Missouri. So Louisiana, Missouri itself is rural. You get on the outskirts and there's like no one. So anyway, they're playing out in the yard. Their older sister, Doris, who was 15 years old at the time, was in the house, and she was in the kitchen, and she heard the boys screaming. When she looked out the window, what she saw was a massive, dark-haired, man-like creature who appeared to be holding a dead dog. And she described it, and I thought this was an odd way to describe it. She described it as having a pumpkin-shaped head, and it had large, glowing orange eyes. Okay. Now, after that sighting, many more sightings of it in and around Louisiana, Missouri occurred that year. And the sightings came from some pretty prominent folks. One of them was the local fire chief. One of them was a member of the city council. And he reported that he was driving along a creek bed, which, for those of you who do not live in Missouri, driving along a creek bed is something that we do. Right?
Pretty normal. Pretty normal.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. So that's nothing unusual. But he was driving along the creek bed, and he saw a massive upright creature in the headlights of his vehicle. So as a response to all of these reportings, And again, this is not unusual for rural Missouri. A 20-person posse was formed to hunt it down, right? Because that's what we do. We all have guns. We got a creature roaming around. We're going to get our guns. We're going to get together. We're going to go out and, we're going to try to hunt this creature down. They didn't find it. Now, the sightings stopped. There hasn't been any sightings since 1972, right? This started in 71. By 72, the sightings were all over with. In 2012, a woman came forward named Priscilla Giltner. And at that time, she was 76 years old, and she was a retired teacher there in the Louisiana School District. And she said that she was nearly certain that Momo was actually 3 boys from the high school who had dressed up in this costume. One of them had dressed up in this costume to scare these kids in their yard and to scare others, right?
Also a normal occurrence in
Also
Missouri.
Missouri, yes. So anyway, she said that the boys that did this didn't realize it was going to get as big as it got with, like the farmers trying to hunt them down. But they were just bored and they were looking for something to do. And she said that she will never, ever tell their names. She will go to the grave before she rats these boys out. And to this day, no one has ever come forward. So I don't know. These 3 boys who are now men, grown men, they must have a code of silence that you just can't break. So, but Momo, which I'm fairly sure is a hoax. You know what I mean? I'm fairly sure of it. But could Momo be a cousin to Bigfoot? Right? Which takes me into Bigfoot because, we got to talk about Bigfoot because there have been sightings of Bigfoot in Missouri, right? As well as, nationwide and actually across the world. And the legends of the Bigfoot go back before recorded history. And Bigfoot's known by many titles, but generally he's called Bigfoot to us here in the United States. And he's generally attributed to living in the mountainous regions of North America. Now, North American settlers started reporting sightings of what we now call Bigfoot in the late 1800s and into the early 1900s, long before we had social media and Photoshop and all of that kind of stuff to, fake this evidence. Not that they couldn't, but it took a little bit more work. In 1947, Paul Kane reported stories by the Native Americans about a race of cannibalistic wild men living on the peak of Mount St. Helens in southern Washington state. And then in 1924, there was an incident. Well, there was a violent encounter between a group of gold prospectors and a group of what they called ape-like men. And it was reported July 16th, 1924 in the newspapers, right? So the newspapers picked up on this. And the area of the state where it occurred is now called Ape Canyon, which I have heard of that, right? But apparently these gold prospectors were confronted by these ape-like creatures. And then in 1940, there was a Protestant missionary, and he actually recorded stories firsthand. He saw these people of he called them giants living among the natives in Spokane, Washington, or near Spokane. They lived on and around the peaks of the nearby mountains, and they stole salmon from the fishermen's nets. Now, of course, those people who have seen Bigfoot, they describe him as a large upright ape. Sometimes he's a hairy human, as standing over 8 feet tall. Now, Entire organizations exist today to study Bigfoot and to prove its existence because they want to prove Bigfoot exists. Now, scientists, of course, discount the existence of Bigfoot because they consider it a combination of folklore, misidentification, and a hoax rather than a living animal. And because it's described as a large, muscular, bipedal ape-like creature covered in black, dark brown, or red hair and stands roughly 6 to 9 feet tall. And a lot of folks say that he's more man-like than ape-like, but the scientists feel that we are misidentifying the black bear. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure that I agree with that. And eventually we're going to have the scientific evidence. There's just too many cameras out there and they're just going to follow, hair samples, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah. And those of us, I shouldn't say myself, but those folks that live where there are black bears, my daughter, for example, she is not going to misidentify a black bear, right?
We have black bears here too, Marcia.
Yeah, but I've never seen one.
Oh,
in the
okay,
wild.
okay. All right.
In the wild.
Okay.
I could misidentify it. To me, it would be a Bigfoot because, a bear would not be the first thing I thought of. But Becky is another one, right? In the Sierra Nevadas, Becky's very aware of bears because they're there, right? So people that live where there are a lot of bears, they're not going to misidentify these. There's been 1,000 reported Bigfoot sightings in the continental United States, and about 1/3 of them have been in the Pacific Northwest. Let's see what else I've got on my notes here. Oh, many sightings appear to have occurred at night, leading to speculation that creatures possess nocturnal tendencies. Again, the scientists are discounting this because all known apes are active during the day, right? They're not nocturnal animals. So let's see what else. Oh, here's an interesting fact that I came upon too. Folks also say that Bigfoot makes a sound, right? He howls, screams, grunts, whistles, whatever he does. A retired U.S. Navy cryptologist, analyzed audio recordings from the early 70s that were recorded in the Sierra Nevada mountains, right? That's where Becky sees the bears. And this particular set of tapes is dubbed the Sierra Sounds. And what he concluded, and of course, this is his job, he's a linguist. His job is to determine language, right? His official report said it is definitely a language. It is not of human origin, and it cannot be faked. So there you go. That's what I know about Bigfoot. Now, Bev and I, at some point, we are going to go Bigfoot hunting. So anybody that wants to join us, just let me know. Let Bev know. We will send a posse out to hunt the Bigfoot.
That's like you got a mouse in your pocket. Who is the we you're describing?
Well, if any of you guys want to go Bigfoot hunting, we're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Okay. And I forgot that they refer to the Missouri Bigfoot as Momo. I was trying to look something up as you were talking.
Yeah, and I really think Momo's faked. I really do think it was some teenage kids. I really do. Only because, he showed up for a year and then he's completely gone, never been seen again.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially after the posse went after him. So, yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Especially, yeah. So just kind of looking in the comments there, Christy shared a website that shows reported sightings, and some states offer Bigfoot excursions. Ooh. So make note of that one.
We might have to do an excursion.
An excursion. That
I wonder if
so much better than just a trip.
Well, I wonder if we could do it in an air-conditioned vehicle. You know what I mean? Like they could just drive me through the woods.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not going to scare them off at all. Okay. So The last critter that I'm going to talk about is referred to as a real mythological creature, and or glamping, and that is the jinn.
Yes.
Multiple different spellings. Some spell it as Jinn. Sometimes it's Djinn. But they are spiritual beings according to Islamic mythology. And they're even mentioned in the Holy Quran. In the West, we know them as genies. And when we think of genies, most of us will probably think about, Disney's Aladdin. Um, and but the histories and origin of that are really it's Arabic in origin, and the root means hidden or concealed, and it refers to a class of spirits below the angelic hierarchy. So these beings were known in Middle Eastern times and often worshipped as benevolent and rewarding gods. Archaeologists even discovered stone carvings and inscriptions giving praise and thanks to jinns. And according to Islam, Allah created three categories of beings: angels who were created from the light, the jinn who were formed from fire, and humans made from earth or clay. Along with humankind, Allah also bestowed free will upon the jinn. And this is the first time I had actually heard of another creature being labeled as having free will other than humans. But lets them live and do as they please. However, they're subject to the same punishments and day of judgment as humans. There is a story about one of the jinn, and I could not figure out how to properly say the name, but they called this jinn Iblis, Iblis, who disobeyed Allah's order to bow down to Adam. And as punishment, they were banished from paradise and known as Satan, the adversary. They were popularized due to the success of the book 1001 Nights, or Arabian Nights. And then that's how they were introduced to the stories of the jinn and how they coexist and communicated with humans. There are different types of jinn. They have male and female genders. And just like people, some are benign, some are malevolent. Most of them fall somewhere in between the two. They may or may not interact with humans. But according to some beliefs, we're all assigned a personal jinn called a Karen, and it's Qarin, not the current sarcastic name for Karen or being a Karen. But for those unfortunate souls who have an evil Karen, they're likely to hear whisperings impelling them to do evil. Some other names for the jinn, and I know we're running up kind of late on time here. Let's see. The major types of jinn include the ghoul, a nocturnal zombie-like shapeshifter that often haunts graveyards. According to Arabian lore, it's the most feared ghoul is female, known as a ghula, who can appear as a mortal woman and lure men to her clutches, turning them to her prey. Kind of like the Black Widow type scenario. Mm-hmm. Ifrit are cunning and extremely intelligent. They're generally evil. They have the ability to change and become pious and saintly. The Ifrit are mentioned in the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran mentions the power that King Solomon had over the Ifrit, making them do his bidding. The Merid are the genies we've come to know and love as the wish-granting genies that live in oil lamps and bottles, and they're actually considered the most powerful of all the jinn. They're blessed with great knowledge, magical powers, originally known as sea spirits, and still spend a lot of their time near water. Nas are a lesser form of jinn with weaker powers, and they often appear as human or animal-like hybrids. As mentioned in 1001 Nights, Nas appear as half-bodied humans hopping around on one leg. I have not seen that piece there, Dawn, about how we stole their world. It does, a lot of things that I have come across is that the common folklore is that they're capable of assuming human or animal form, dwell in inconceivable inanimate objects, stones, trees, ruins, under the earth, in the air, and in the fire. They have the bodily needs of human beings, and they can be killed, but they are free from all physical restraints. They do delight in punishing humans for any harm done to them intentionally or unintentionally. And they are said to be responsible for many diseases and all kinds of accidents. But that is from, and just so I'm quoting my sources here, is from the Britannica Online Encyclopedia. So that's what I've got about jinn or the genie.
Well, Dawn mentioned Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and I knew Rosemary for many years, probably 20 years before she died. She hasn't been gone that long. Rosemary was what I would consider to be an expert on the jinn. She studied it. She wrote books about it. She interviewed tons and tons of people that had been affected by the jinn. So if you all are interested at all in that, check out Rosemary's books. They're still available. But yeah, she's what I would consider an expert. She wholeheartedly believed that the jinn existed. So that leads me to think that they exist. And she always referred to them as shapeshifters because she was looking for the ones that were always doing harm, right? And helping people protect themselves from that because they're very dangerous. They're very dangerous. So, but that's what I know about the jinn. We had many, many talks about that. And a lot of times I could not follow what she was saying because she was so well versed in it that for me, it was like, whoop, right over the head. Couldn't get it. So, all right. And there we go, folks, with cryptids and monsters.
Okay.
Any thoughts from the gallery on anything? And while you all are thinking about it, let me put a couple of things up here. I want to put our social media up. You will notice that the website has changed, Midwest Ghost Hunters. It has not really changed. We've always had the MidwestGhostHunters.com. Just say boo.com will get you to the same place. I've just kind of done a changeover because I want to kind of bring everything in line with the Midwest Ghost Hunters brand. Anyway, you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Odyssey, MeWe, Rumble. Of course, you know we're on Facebook. And let me get rid of that. Okay. Coming up, what have we got coming up? Well, this weekend, we were supposed to go to the Bell Mansion in Fort Wayne. And, I firmly believe everything happens for a reason. There is a reason for everything. No one was able to go. Just Dawn and I were the only two. Everybody else had things going on, couldn't go. But we're ready, right? We're going to go. And Tim Murphy was going to join us. So as luck would have it, I get a call on Thursday night from the gal that manages it, Angie, and she's like, you know what? There's somebody in the music industry that wants to film a video the same time you folks are going to be here. I won't cancel you. Absolutely not. But, is there a chance that you will reschedule? Well, then she made us a money deal, a financial deal. So I'm like, oh, you betcha. Anything to save a buck or two. So anyway, we are not going to the Bell Mansion this weekend. They will be filming a music video there instead. I say music video. I assume that. they're in the music industry. They're filming a video. I kind of put the two and two together, but it may not be a music video. But anyway, they're filming some kind of video there this weekend. So we are looking at going to the Bell Mansion now in August. Now, coming up in June, however, we are slated to go, Bev and Linda, listen to this, to the Liberty School and back to the Gill House. We're gonna try to get back in the Gill House.
Bats. Remember this, bats.
Yes, at the school there were bats. But that's okay. We can deal with bats. So anyway, that's what we've got coming up for June. July is going to be kind of open. I think Becky and I are going to take a trip to Utah. We can't get on the Skinwalker Ranch, but we're going to be on the ranch right next door. Their property abuts it.
Are you kidding me?
It's all in who you know. It's all in who you know.
I just told her about that ranch next door.
So
See how
yeah. So that's where we're going. That's where we're going. And we're going to go UFO hunting. So yeah.
You dirty dog. Dirty dog.
It's all in who you know. It's all in who you know. Which would be you. But anyway, so we're going to Utah in we're kind of looking at July. It's not set in stone yet. And then of course in August we're going to pop over to the Bell Mansion. I got a couple other things in the works for August as well. So, what am I missing, Michelle?
I think you actually got it all this time.
Do I have it? Okay, let me take another peek at the comments. Okay, and Michelle dropped our links in there for our shirts if you're so inclined. Or if you just want to give us money, that's okay too.
Remember 50% off t-shirts this weekend.
15.
Sorry, 15. Sorry, 15.
15. Yes. All right. I want to say thank you to those of you that have been hanging out with us this evening. We know there's so many other things you could do on a Friday night besides hang around with us and talk about things that we don't really know a whole lot about, but we try. Ghost hunting we know about, but we never talk about that. So, but anyway, I guess that's it. You won't be seeing us again until the next Ghostly Gab because we don't have, we do have, I take that back. On the 13th, I am going up north because I've been asked to come up there and do, I'm calling it a public hunt. I don't know what else to call it, but it's really a paranormal 101 kind of a training. There's going to be a group that wants to get together. They want to know how to operate the equipment, that kind of thing. So, and it looks like I'm going to be doing that solo. So we'll see how that works out for everybody.
Yeah, and we'll just call this a little bit of foreshadowing because Marsha's being very polite. She's had this in the works for a little while. The opportunity has just finally presented itself. So we'll just say that for now.
Yes, I've had it in the works for a while. But yeah, so I'm pretty excited about it, really. And, hopefully it's just a sign of things to come. Anyway, folks, I guess that's it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on a Friday night. Be kind to one another. Think positive thoughts. Send out that positive energy. There's too much negative in the world right now. And I guess, Michelle, until next time, just say boo.